And away you go.
In this digital age, we have all become very aware of the fact that our every transaction, email, Facebook-like, and private intimate exchange is being watched. And even if it's not being watched, it's being mined. We are being coerced into ticking more boxes, agreeing to more and more terms and conditions, updates, agreements and waivers for all the online products and services we use. Despite the fact that these supposed contracts often run into thousands of words, and virtually none of us ever read them.
Preamble. The goals of the Open Font License, OFL, are to stimulate...
In 2017, I was given the task of documenting one man's attempt to read the entire terms and conditions of the Amazon Kindle for the Australian consumer organisation Choice. This is my view of his journey as the filmmaker and his chief tormentor.
Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm going to be reading the complete terms and conditions for the Amazon Kindle for Choice magazine. So let's begin, shall we? Shall I just try that again? That was a bit clumsy.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. Should I be looking at the camera when it comes up? I shouldn't be asking all these questions. I just want to get it right.
Straight down the barrel.
Down the barrel.
Yeah.
Okay. Before the project began, I was told everything about the task. I was told that it would involve reading the terms and conditions of the Amazon Kindle. I was told how many words it would be. I was told how many pages it was in printed form. I was cautiously excited about the project. It was, you know, as a freelancer, I do get lots of strange projects coming my way. I was pleased and a little bit apprehensive to have sort of what seemed like a very strange task.
These conditions apply to any software derived from or based on the IJG code, not just to the unmodified library.
My role for it was shooting and making sure the talent was, you know, being able to read as well, but also making sure that he was coherent as well by the end of it. You know, it was interesting to see the enthusiasm when he first started off.
Well, because it's fun, isn't it? You know, you're reading something in front of a camera. It's like a very perverse kind of story time thing. You know, it's sort of exciting to be able to read something that people will see. Hello, I'm Lawrence, and I'm going to be reading the complete terms and conditions of the Amazon Kindle from beginning to end for Choice magazine. Terms of use, last updated October 5, 2016. This is an agreement between you and Amazon Digital Services, LLC, with its affiliates Amazon, we, or us. About 40 seconds into the task, I was still sort of optimistic. I was still, you know, trying to maintain a degree of poise and professionalism. And then gradually, with how sort of repetitious it was, even less than a page in, hope began to leave me. I remember asking you things like, does it still work if I don't go through it? I mean, does it serve the purposes of the thing? You know, that way the story is, instead of someone that reads the whole thing, it's that they couldn't even get through it. And I was saying, would that be all right? And you were sort of, you know, being evasive about that. And the result is that I read the whole thing. And we share customer information related to those transactions. I've never been to prison, but by the time of the first break, I felt as if I had this moment outside of my cell, and I was able to sort of take in the sunlight and the air and so forth. And so I was both filled with this momentary sense of relaxation from the reprieve, while also being filled with just sort of this fatalistic dread. audio.amazon.com/backup/FAQ. Excuse me, I'm going to have to get a tissue. -support@amazon.com, end of parentheses. Can I have a break?
Yeah, sure.
For the photos stored in your account, you're required to read and agree to the important legal information regarding your use of such features here. And protected by Australian and international copyright and database right laws. Trademarks. So, we're halfway through day 1. I'm up to page 30. Feeling pretty unhappy. I'm not really, it's my human faculties are diminishing. The one thing that's really stood out to me so far is the fact that the state of Illinois has insisted, I imagine, that that digital facial recognition software not apply to them. So the default is that that is not applicable in Illinois. That's really the only thing I remember of the preceding 30 pages. We've lapsed recently into speaking about the audible conditions of use. I'm keeping an eye on my voice, and I have less control over my psychological state. But let's just see how much more we can get through. All right. Your account. At the very beginning, you see me reading, and you see me going, terms of use in a slightly theatrical, slightly like I'm almost enjoying this kind of way, and then 45 minutes later, I wasn't acting. I didn't have the energy to act, or to do anything in any particular way. Four, risk of loss. Or by redeeming a promotional claim code or voucher, you agree to be bound by these terms and conditions. Just going to need a little break. It's a work of obscurantism that seems to have been written by a team of disparate lawyers who have cut and pasted things from each other, none of which have read what the other people have done.
The Amazon Kindle's terms and conditions are a classic example of modern contracting for online transactions, in that they are often extremely one-sided in favour of the seller, which is, in many of these cases, an enormous global corporation. They contain terms that most people would not understand, which perhaps many lawyers would not understand. And in many situations, they're unnecessarily complicated. You don't need a 1,000-page document to sell someone a Kindle. And perhaps what we're seeing here is really lawyers going overboard.
In reading something that is this bereft of meaning, it's very difficult to do anything but kind of focus on yourself enduring it. You going through the act of reading it, you as the reader. That's the closest thing you can find in the whole experience to a character. Audible gift audiobooks. And so it becomes endlessly recursive. It becomes kind of like staring at a whole hall of mirrors that dissolves, and behind it is just this void of, well, a void. 3. Redemption codes for gift audiobooks cannot be resold, transferred for value, redeemed for cash, or applied to any other Audible account except where required by law. I'm going to need another break.
Yeah, that's all good.
I have never done anything as boring as reading that book.
Anything as terrible as reading that book?
I've probably done some terrible things, I suppose, in adolescence and whatnot. It's likely I've done worse things in terms, morally and so forth. Yes, I don't think this was morally bad.
If it wasn't morally bad, what was it?
Deeply unpleasant. Profoundly unpleasant.
The idea that any one person can effectively track through 1,000 pages of a contract and understand exactly how every clause relates to every other clause, I think is totally unrealistic.
We're about a quarter of the way through the terms and conditions of the Amazon Kindle. I'm not having a terrific time, but at the same time I was aware for the first quarter that it would actually be better once my spirit breaks. And so I think that's happened, and now I'm doing what I can to preserve some modicum of sanity. Yeah, all human faculties began to fail a couple of pages in. And from then it's just dealing with the despair of what you're reading, the general meaninglessness of it. It's making me dislike the company Amazon, which I understand might be unfair, but I don't want to hear anything about them. Alexa, Audible, and well, let's be clear, I'm a quarter of the way in. We're going to hear a lot more from all of them. So that's what this is about, I suppose.
I am at page 70 of, I believe, over 200 pages, possibly looking at about a third of the way through. This has been the best arrangement with bath and wine. I don't know. Words sort of are failing me, but I'm in this for the long haul, or as close to it as I can get, while continuing to function as a sort of member of society. Some of it seems to be a sort of a how-to guide, like how to delete your data if you want to. That's nice, I suppose, but fucked if I know why it's in there.
Fair enough. And just finally, are you looking forward to picking it up tomorrow with a fresh set of eyes, fresh outlook?
Yes.
To say that I'm looking forward to resuming it tomorrow is a complex sort of statement with elements of truth and falsity in it.
My voice was tired after about 5 minutes. Or if I'd have to fake it in desperation. I was considering doing that, and then I was wondering if I was gradually accumulating. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. So it becomes endlessly recursive. It's like staring at a whole straight white middle-class person living in Australia. Even if my voice dissolves, it's void. Behind it is just this void of void. Well, a void. Well, it's day 2 of this terms and conditions extravaganza. At the end of yesterday, I did feel fairly wrecked, to the point that I didn't want to really do anything after I'd finished. And then much later, I started to really value things like reading fiction and being able to interpret layers of meaning and character and theme, which of course is not available to me in this particular text. In terms of how I'm feeling today, obviously here we are at Choice headquarters. I'm feeling a little bit apprehensive, but as always, up for the challenge.
How did you feel by the end of yesterday?
Yeah, I didn't feel great, but I did feel a strange sense of accomplishment, which we'll see if that persists. The BSD license, full text. full text.